Well, that was fun. So after the video about the Texas Rangers, of course, and follow-up to that, of course, the Rangers wound up losing the next 2 games after that video. So it was a 4-game sweep by the Boston Red Sox. Don't know how I feel about that one yet. So last night, let's talk a little bit about that. So looking back at last night, I was excited. Very, very excited. Opening season, I'm ready. I'm ready to see Quinn Ewers, which, by the way, I'm beginning to question what happened in my life. Because I'm 20 years old, and the starting quarterback for the Texas Longhorns, Quinn Ewers, is 19. What? Dude looks like a lumberjack and a grown man. What did I do wrong? Quinn Ewers, right? 16 for 24, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, and of course that one lone interception that he had when he decided he had a little bit of butterflies. Now, he said he didn't have butterflies before the game, but I don't know all about that one. That looked like a pretty interesting throw to me. Bijan had 10 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Now, I'm fixing to ramble off a lot of names, and we've had at least 5 or 6 different guys that all had a touch and had a touchdown. Roschon Johnson had 5 carries, 31 yards for a touchdown. And Jonathan Brooks, we saw there at the end, got himself one. He had 6 carries for 32 yards, and, of course, the touchdown at the end. Jatavian Sanders kind of stood out there. 6 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. This guy, they mentioned it during the deal. They're like, oh, this guy's for sure. We're seeing a connection, a budding connection. Well, God, I hope so. Because next week is going to be hell if they don't. Xavier Worthy wasn't much of a target in this game, but that's okay because I expect to see him more. We still got the entire season left. So I'm expecting to see Quinn throw to Xavier, especially like in clutch situations and stuff like that. It's okay that he had 1 game off. Whittington, I hope that Jordan kind of stays healthy this season. Jordan Whittington actually has only played in 13 of the last 35 games that he could have been a part of. So I really hope this season that he actually kind of shines a little bit and shines but stays healthy. I hope the man stays healthy, for God's sake. The Keelan Robinson punt returned for 6. That was awesome, huh? I mean, I'm sitting here rambling about this, but did we really expect anything different when you're playing the University of Louisiana Monroe? I'll tell you what scared me, though. What scared me was the defense. I'm not real sure how this defense is going to stand against Alabama's offense come next week. And I'm like, oh, man, don't worry. Like, Alabama's offense is sus, and the defense is what's going to carry them. Well, we're going to find out because they're coming to Texas. About 2 or 3 years ago when LSU won the national championship when Joe Burrow was at quarterback, and I guess that was 2019. I told my grandfather at the time, I was looking at this game ahead, and I'm like, man, this game coming up, they're coming into Texas and coming into Austin now. Whoever's going to come out on top on this game, I guarantee you will have a great shot at winning the national championship. Just because both teams were highly talented and had a lot of hype going into that season. Because if you think about it, Texas had the chance to win that game and then go play Oklahoma. And if they beat Oklahoma, well, now they're going to have to play whoever they're going to play in the Big 12 championship, hopefully win the Big 12 championship, and then get into the playoffs. LSU, if they win that game, they still got to play Bama. And then if they beat Bama, then they're in the playoffs for sure. Oklahoma was the big bag in the Big 12, and Alabama, of course, is king of football. Speaking of those kings of football, they're coming in next week. Alabama hung 41 on Utah State at half. They probably went to the back and told some of the players to take their pads off. While coaches came in there and said, great job, you did what you're supposed to, now take a break. That's about it. Jaleel Billingsley, who is now serving a 6-game suspension for something he did at Alabama. Apparently it wasn't like a legal thing. Argyle Hall is back with the Horns. The transfer from wide receiver from Alabama. In the spring game, he had 4 receptions for 72 yards for Bama, and one of which was a 37-yard grab down the sideline off of Bryce Young. One thing that's concerning for me is the defense. Defense kind of gave up some coverage plays. Now, of course, towards the end, you're putting in second stringers, third stringers. I get it. I understand. The schemes weren't there. Some guys were left open. Luke Brockermeyer, and he came into the game. And then I don't know if this was like a coaching situation or not, but he just completely let this guy run past him. Didn't even put a hand on him. Missed the assignment completely. But DeMarvion Overshown, that guy was phenomenal. 8 total tackles by himself. 6 of them were solo tackles. No sacks, but 2 tackles for loss. One of those tackles for loss, if he hadn't been there, probably would have been a touchdown for ULM, and the beginning of that game would have looked a lot different for the Horns and the Warhawks. Baron Sorrell, he's a second-year defensive end who's played in 6 games and had a pretty okay freshman year. I'm thinking if this guy steps up for the Horns this season, it could really help us on the defensive side of the ball. It looks Like, our defensive line is not an issue. It look like our linebackers, our front seven's looking phenomenal. They are applying pressure every single down. Deshaun Jameson pick six happened only because we kind of got lucky with a bad throw. But let me talk about Hudson Card for a minute. So Hudson Card comes into the game in the third quarter. Immediately, I'm reminded of how sad I truly got last year as a Longhorns fan watching them play football. When he came in and started the game against Arkansas, I was actually so stoked, and I saw all those fans in the stands ready and throwing the horns down and everything. You know what? Rivalry game. Let's go. Let's bring the Arkansas-Texas rivalry game back. Oh, my word. He comes into the game and gets pressured. You can't necessarily blame it all on the O-line. They were talking about it in the broadcast that he has a tendency for holding the ball for just a tad bit too long.
No, you're still holding on. Let go.
And that's what caused a lot of that pressure, and that's what caused some ill-advised throws. He got sacked. I think he got sacked twice in the game. The funnier stat of this game is the fact that there was 22 first downs for the Texas Longhorns. ULM had the ball more than Texas did. They had the ball for almost 11 minutes more than Texas did. ULM had the ball for 35 minutes and 26 seconds, and Texas had the ball for 24 minutes and 34 seconds. I'm not one to say that the season is over, but college football is one of those sports it's almost unfair. You lose one game, and it's almost like the end of the season. Like, you're really going to have to fight to get yourself back into the picture, especially for the playoffs. Now, with the new 12-team playoff format coming up, maybe that won't be the same. But for now, with the 4 teams still intact, it's just if you lose one game, it don't look too good going up into the final few months of the season. I mean, already Alabama is opening up against Texas as a 19-point favorite to win the game. And they're on the road in Austin, which is a rowdy place to play in, but I'm not going to sit here and say that Texas is going to be, oh man, yeah, we have a good shot at winning this game. You have a shot to win every game. The only issue is these guys got to play their game. These guys got to stay focused on what Steve Sarkisian has kind of woven into them over the offseason. Steve Sarkisian actually is a descendant of Nick Saban. Nick Saban is 25-1 against his former assistants, and of course, Sarkisian was actually the offensive coordinator on that national championship football team that had Mac Jones and Devontae Smith, Najee Harris. But that's just the thing. Every offensive scheme that you can possibly imagine probably would have looked good when 3 of your starting 11 offensive players are all Heisman contenders. We'll just kind of have to see how things play out coming into this next week. The Texas Longhorns are undefeated this season, and I can at least be happy with that stat for another week. Welcome.